Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Thursday night session. We're going to be talking about Be Diabetes Aware Type 2, as it says on Jo's name down there. You might recognise Jo. She was with us a few months ago doing a really interesting talk on Be Cancer Safe. And tonight she's joined by Tracy. As you can see, there's Nicola and myself on screen as well, and Michael's backstage flying the decks, as he said. Being shy again, he's pretending anyway, but he's not really.
He's not shy.
No, definitely not. I was going to say hello, Nicola, then, but you're on screen. Hi, Trace and Tracy and Janice, who's joined us. And Michael's on saying hello from the comments as well. There we are. Oh dear, it's going to be one of those nights. I can tell. If you have any questions for Jo or Tracy, drop them into the comments, and we'll pick them up as we go along. But for the rest of the evening, over to Jo and Tracy to tell us about diabetes.
Hello. Shall I give you a little bit of who we are? We'll do a little bit of an intro.
Yes.
If that helps. Yeah.
Good.
So as you've introduced, my name's Jo. And I have been here before, as they say, for Be Cancer Safe. And Be Diabetes Aware is the other line of work that we do. Commissioned by the CCG in Rotherham, and we're based with Voluntary Action Rotherham. So Be Diabetes for us is about type 2. So our remit, definitely initially, and still carries on to be increase the take up of education courses for type 2. The main one that's come out of that for us is the prevention programme. And in order for us to be able to do that work, we've learned as much as we can really about signs and symptoms for type 2, understanding type 2, and understanding some of the differences between other diabetes types like type 1. It's a big subject, and we know there's lots of complexities in there. And we always say patients know far more than us about their health. We're not medical. Type 2, I think, there's less understanding about it in terms of prevention. We do know that COVID, the magic word at the moment, has really highlighted diabetes because there was a lot of conversations about, is there a link between diabetes and COVID? So we're up to speed as much as anybody when it comes to conversation. For you're diabetic, so please ask questions. We'll do our best to answer. And as always, we don't know the answer, but that's why Tracy's with me, because she's over there. I'm using my wrong hand. She may know the answer. That's why I've got, as we call each other, wing people, wing women and wing men, just so we can pick up for each other. But please ask a question. If we don't know, we will try to signpost.
We'll get back to you.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, and there's no daft questions. Please, nobody be worried about asking a simple question, or you might think it's a question everybody knows the answer to already. As we were talking about, we are very much relying on Zoom to reach people at the moment. We do talk about Rotherham, but the information we can talk to you about diabetes applies to wherever you are. So if we are joined by anybody outside of Rotherham, outside of South Yorkshire, or even further afield, we may be able to help you with the information. Probably the only specifics is if we are talking about the vaccination programme in Rotherham, if there's anything that comes out. So whoever you are, wherever you are, please don't worry, ask. We love questions. And you kept me really busy last time, so I'm looking forward to it again tonight. Anything to add on that, Tracy? Does that sound about
No,
right?
I was saying to Tony, sometimes because we're not medical, sometimes people, feel a little bit easier asking us questions. And sometimes it's good to get questions staff, as it seems that we don't even know the answer to, because then we learn as well. But we'll always get back to you. We can always get back to Tony and Nicola if there's something that you want to know that we don't. We haven't got the knowledge, but we'll definitely find out for you.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
That sounds really good.
It does.
Thank you.
Really
Good.
Yes.
A good start.
Indeed.
I must admit, before I did, just a little bit of background. Before we were asked to do diabetes quite naively. I didn't really know a great deal about diabetes. I didn't know the ins and outs. I just thought people got diabetes and they took a tablet, and very naively I thought that was it. And it's only when you start looking into it and how you can help yourself. Because the thing with type 2, with diabetes, obviously type 1, there's quite a whole array of different ones, as we know. But the difference, 90% of people with diabetes across the board are actually type 2. And more often than not, type 2 is a lifestyle choice. It's being active, it's keeping, watching your weight, trying to not stop smoking. It's very much a lifestyle choice. And with diabetes, there's no known cure. But the thing with type 2 is you can put it into remission, so that you don't have to take tablets again. And that's the difference between type 1 and type 2. There's no known cure for diabetes, unfortunately. But with type 2, you can put it into remission.
So do the different types of diabetes affect you differently? Or is it just...
No, I'll just give you just like a basic. With type 1, it's all about your blood sugar levels being too high, and your body can't make insulin's a hormone. So with type 1, you don't produce any. With type 2, you still produce it, insulin, but it may be your body can't use it properly, or you don't produce enough. So it makes your blood sugar in your blood too high.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also a Haribo addict. I must admit, wine gums. I'm not bothered about chocolate. Give me wine gums every day.
That's Michael. Yeah.
That's a bit. Oh, New Zealand. Oh,
New Zealand.
No, welcome.
They say with diet as well, with diabetes, it's you hear things like don't eat this, don't eat that. When we've looked and we've researched, and Diabetes UK is a really good website. It's definitely our first go-to for any information that you want, whether it's support or information. And it says on there about a healthy diet. So I don't think they ever restrict you from anything, but it's eating well and knowing what carbohydrates to eat, what are good fats, what are bad fats. As I say, and if you go on the Diabetes UK, there's recipes on there, and it tells you about what carbohydrates are good, what are bad. There was something about not eating grapes, wasn't there, Joe? About sugar bombs.
Right. Sugar bombs,
grapes being sugar bombs. But grapes are actually a good sugar, not so much a bad sugar.
It's all about how much, isn't it? And the education courses. So initially, and this is for people who are diagnosed, there's something called Desmond. And that kind of gets you up to speed about, I think it's about a day course. So things like, can you have custard creams? Can you have grapes? And we all have ideas, like any health subject. You get something in your mind, or you hear something, or advice changes. So for new patients, there's Desmond, and then there's also a course called Betty, which is Better Eating for Type 2 and You. So that's about managing type 2 with diet and understanding it. But there's also remission. So there's a course you can do to try and come into remission. I don't know if you've ever seen it on the news. There's been probably more about it in the last maybe 2 or 3 years. There was something called the Direct Study, and that was about if you lose about 2 stone, you could achieve remission. So these are the courses for people diagnosed. And as Tracy's explained, lifestyle, however you're going to look at it, the prevention course is also about what are you eating. Is maybe Haribo every day good or bad?
Midget Gems is for me.
Midget Gems. But I must say it's really timely, because I think it was only Tuesday. We're on Twitter. We have a Twitter account for Be Diabetes Aware. And the advisor to the NHS, who's really good, he put some really good information up. He put up that eating a donut every day won't give you diabetes. He says it's one of these things that people think, but it's not a good thing to eat a donut every day. I must admit, I went, oh, does that mean I can have a donut every day? We're talking about donuts. But it doesn't. It means, it's not necessarily what you're eating, it's how you're eating it, how often you're eating it. I don't think it helps you to eat one every day. So it is about understanding, and the education courses are there to hopefully educate. Sounds a bit patronising, but it's to help you understand what you can eat. But also, as Tracy said, Diabetes UK, you can kind of go on, there's learning zone. You can go on, put in what diabetes you may have or what you're worried about, and then you can see there's questions, there's answers, there's a bit of learning, there's community forums. So there's lots of support out there. Maybe not. I think you're answering your own question. But,
Yeah.
So the education courses, if you can look after your own diet and help yourself to make the better choices that help you manage what is a really serious condition, and if you can get away from having it at all, if there's a way of preventing it, that's what the education courses, they are called education courses, but it's there for a little bit of learning.
Yeah, I mean, they say there's three main things that they advise you on is move more and get support to lose weight. And what I would say about that is it's an emotional roller coaster. You don't have to do all three things all at once. I would, do one at a time. Get the support that you need to lose weight, either going to a Weight Watchers club or doing it online or doing it through a dietitian. But it is quite an emotional thing, diabetes, especially if you've just been diagnosed and you don't know all the ins and outs. So just try and do things one step at a time. Don't put yourself under pressure to think, right, I've got to eat well and also walk 10 miles a day and try and lose 3 stone. It won't happen to anybody. So don't put that pressure on yourselves or on any family members. Just try and do one step at a time.
Yeah. And I think it's Tracy's. Sorry, Nicola, go on.
No, so the preventative courses then. So I remember a few months ago, I've just switched doctors, and as I were moving doctors, I got a letter from my old doctor inviting me on one. But because I'd moved, I didn't get that from the new doctor, and I didn't know whether it'd be something that you've got to do through your doctors, or whether it's something you can self-refer yourself to.
You can self-refer.
Yeah. So due to COVID, and we know the word COVID it's not a positive word, we know that. But things have changed because of COVID. And NHS England, along with Diabetes UK, have put the course online. So it used to be, once you got on it, you had to go somewhere, like most things are. As Grace has just mentioned, going to Weight Watchers, you've got to go there.
Yeah.
And you always get there every week. So it's now being delivered, I think, through MS Teams. But what they've also done is you can self-refer. You can go on Diabetes UK and do something called Know Your Risk, get a score to see where you are, and then you can self-refer onto the course. So if your doctor has been in touch, it may be at some point you've had a blood test and they've checked your blood sugar, because I think if you've had a blood test within the last, I think it was 2 years, you were automatically, it was 2 years, Trace, wasn't it?
2 years,
so they extended that as well to say, well, if any of the patients have had blood sugar reading that puts you into the bracket, you can be referred and asked to go. They were contacting patients. So some GPs were sending letters out to all their patients on that list. But you can also now self-refer.
Yeah.
I will go through it because I found him, even though I'm not in the office at the moment, I have got the odd bit of paper I found in Recovered about the risk factors for type 2. So we've obviously talked a bit about weight, and I think when you talk about diabetes, there's that immediate association. Well, it's weight. Are you eating donuts every day? That kind of thing. But there are risks that you can't do anything about. Obviously, weight is something that we can, but it's knowing your risks. So it's knowing the risks that you can't control. So I'll run through these just to give us something else to have a think about. So age is a risk, as with most things, really. We get a bit older and things happen. You're more at risk if you're white and over 40. But if you're African, Caribbean, Black African or South Asian, that risk starts at 25.
Wow.
So
no reason why. No reason why.
So there's a big difference. But equally, if you're in that community, to know that age isn't something to think, oh, it's when you're older. 25 is quite, obviously, it's relatively young to be thinking about such a life-changing condition. Family history. I'm going to stop waving my hand around. Hang on. Put my hand down. Talk with my hands. So family history. So you're 2 to 6 times more likely to get type 2 if you have a parent, a brother, a sister, or a child with diabetes. Ethnicity, as we've touched on, it's 2 to 4 times more likely if you're of South Asian descent, African, Caribbean, or Black African descent. So family history goes a long way towards your risk being automatically increased. If you've ever had high blood pressure, not currently, it's ever. So if you've ever had high blood pressure, and then yes, if you're overweight, you're more at risk, especially if you're large around the middle. So it's about your waist measurement as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
now
you could be
measure your waist.
but you could look at yourself and think, well, my weight's really good. If you're looking at your family history and your age, ethnicity, and you do then know your risk, and as you're ticking the boxes, you see your number go up.
Yeah.
And I know when I did it, my dad was type 2, and I was like, oh, I'm all right. I'm not too close. And I went, oh, my dad was type 2. Click that, and then it added, I think, an extra 4 points on. And I was like, oh, I can't do anything about. Yeah. But I can't change a lot of the numbers. You think, well, I can't do anything about them. So weight is something you can bring that number down. If you've ever had blood pressure, you can't change the fact you had blood pressure. So the Know Your Risk tool is a really good way of understanding where you are. And if there's something you can change, as Tracy said, if you think, well, I could lose it, actually, yeah, I could get my weight down a bit because I can do that. As Tracy was saying, how you can do that is maybe under your own influence, or the prevention course is there to give you that support. And it's 9 months long. It's a long
And you're
course.
not on your own. There's other people, as we know, go through the same thing. And there's some really good forums that people can join. And I think the fact that you haven't got to go through it on your own, because people are going through the same symptoms, same risks. There's a really good support network out there if you need to ask any questions, or just think, oh, well, somebody else is doing that. Is that happened to them? Or especially on, say, Diabetes UK, they run a very good forum that you can ask questions.
But what we'll do is I'll send the links through so you can add them on.
Yeah.
Always distressed when I'm reading as I'm talking.
Yeah.
Redefine
Your waist, belly button, wear a belt fit.
Yeah.
That's embrace it.
I don't know why, but as you get older, it does seem to go around your middle, doesn't it?
It does,
You tend to, and that apparently is the bad fat because it's around your liver.
Yeah.
It's around there, but you just get hit a certain age, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you think, where's that come from?
So answer your question then, Nicola. If you've had a letter, you can. It doesn't matter where you live. This is a national program,
right?
So you can access it, but you can get it through. If you went on Diabetes UK, you can get on it.
I've got a free phone number as well that I can pass on to you.
And Healthier You, who run the course in our area, there's direct contact. You could give them a call as well. So it's not GP dependent as to whether you can.
That's what I wondered whether it was, and that's why I didn't do anything about it at the time.
Yeah.
But knowing my mum was diabetic and I'm not exactly skinny, I think maybe I ought to be looking at it.
But you can do it sort of in the privacy of your own laptop. You can tick your way through the risk. And
I think they do it by phone as well now, which is good, because before COVID, you had to go to a central place, and they were all different places in Rotherham, but it was just that one option. Whereas now, since COVID, there's other options that you can.
It's a positive thing, and as I say, we can't say COVID and positivity, but there are changes that will help a lot of people to access things they wouldn't have been able to access, either because they just didn't feel comfortable going out and being in a group and talking about what is a very personal thing, or it's just convenient, or you're working. Not having that commute, it makes it, you can think, oh, I can jump on that quick because I can finish work at 5 and I can be ready to be on at 6. It's gives that opportunity.
Oh yeah, cholesterol and type 2.
I do believe there is, but I couldn't tell you exactly what the ins and outs are. Could you do know, Joe? But I do believe there is a risk between high cholesterol.
I think it's why you've got high cholesterol.
Yeah.
There's the good cholesterol, bad cholesterol, isn't there? What does your high cholesterol mean? Where is it coming from? Why? And is there, so like we just said, really, if you've got high cholesterol because of your diet, and your diet, you've got extra weight, does that put you at risk of diabetes? it's not it's not, as we just said, it's not eating a donut every day you're going to be diabetic, or you eating Haribo every day you're going to be diabetic. It's understanding how does it all link together for your overall health. If you've got one thing, how does that, so if you've got high blood pressure, how does that affect your risk, obviously, of diabetes? Cholesterol, it's kind of all in the mix, isn't it? So it's understanding, having that conversation, and I think go in and have a look for yourself if you can. We're not saying Dr. Google has the answers, and be careful with Dr. Google.
Yeah, use a trusted source.
Use a trusted source. So things like, as we said, Diabetes UK, British Heart Foundation. Go to some trusted websites where there's, or the NHS. The NHS is out there with lots of helpful, whatever you put in for the NHS, you'll find the information.
The NHS website's really good, actually. I've used it a few times.
I'm just going to switch my lights on because it's getting dark.
I know, I might do so much.
I'm disappearing. Hang on.
Probably that's worse. I mean, do you want me to go through a few symptoms that you might? Because the symptoms are type 1 and type 2. It's just that with type 1, they normally come on a lot quicker. But there we go. So with the symptoms, so going to the toilet a lot, more frequently. What we always say, and as Joe probably said to you before, it's what's not your normal. So going to the toilet, more so at night. So if you're getting up to go to the toilet in the night, more so. Being really thirsty, more tired than usual. I know sometimes that, come home from work and things and we are tired, aren't we? But just, you can feel yourself when you're a bit more tired. Losing weight when you're not even trying to lose weight. Genital itching or thrush, if you keep getting thrush as well. Cuts and wounds that don't seem to heal as quick as what they would before. So if you just scrape your leg or cut it or cut your arm or something, or a burn, and it doesn't heal as well as what it probably would do. And blurred vision can also be a sign as well. I tend to go on NHS on that. So yeah, they're the main symptoms. But on saying that, 6 out of 10 don't get symptoms at all.
Really?
So although we've said those symptoms, a lot of people, and especially they reckon at the moment that there's millions living with diabetes that don't actually know. And the only way to determine if you have diabetes is through a blood test, really, with your doctor. But they can tell you if you're pre-diabetic as well. But yeah, they think it's kind of like a ticking time bomb, and especially to the NHS, and the things that, because it obviously with diabetes, it causes a lot of health implications as well. So, it can cause problems with your eyes, with your feet, kidney problems, nerve damage, amputations as well. So your heart, you're more likely to have a heart attack or to have a stroke. And I think when you start hearing things like that, you tend to think, oh gosh, I didn't realize that maybe I'm putting myself at risk, or what can you do then? It's not all doom and gloom. You can do things to help yourself. As I say, you can put it into remission. And obviously with insulin and things, and going to your doctors, going on the courses, all that's going to help you as well.
I had a line manager actually, and it was really odd because I thought, like you said, you get diabetes, you stick yourself with an insulin needle, and
exactly.
you're fine. And my line manager actually was diabetic. Actually, him and his brother were, and I couldn't understand why he was going to the podiatrist once a fortnight, because his feet were that bad and ulcerated. And I thought, what's that got to do with diabetes?
Yeah, exactly.
Everything.
It's harder to heal as well. And there's 15 health checks, couldn't name them all at the moment, that if you are a diabetic, that you have to go regularly to get checked out. And you say you don't realise, you just think, oh, it's just an injection or a tablet. But I think when you become then, and it's not too late, but you become a diabetic, you think, I didn't realise it came with all these health complications. And then you have to look at the broader picture as well, and what pressure that puts on the NHS, all the pressures that are on the NHS at the moment as well. So it really is a long-term thing that I think needs to be. We need to make people more aware of diabetes, and unfortunately, sometimes it can't be helped. You know, if you're type 1, that's it. You're type 1. It's unfortunate for type 1 or type 2. It can't always be helped. I don't mean, sorry, it can't be helped if you are diabetic. I don't mean you can't get help. I'll rephrase that. You can get help.
Yeah.
The help is out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Tracy was saying about feet. I think we've accessed quite a few things over this year because things have been available. So there was a talk with a diabetes nurse talking about foot care. And he was talking about a gentleman that he was helping who lost his house key. And it was in his shoe. And he couldn't feel, because the nerves are damaged in your feet.
Yeah.
That's why if you hurt yourself, you don't realise you've hurt yourself. And that's where it can progress into things like an ulcer. But he had a door key in his shoe, and they weren't loose shoes. And he was walking around with his key because he couldn't feel it.
Wow.
And that's where your damage starts, and that's where amputations can come with the ulceration. Things don't heal. So like Tracy said at the very beginning, and we said exactly the same when we started diabetes. Oh, you're diabetic, you take a tablet. And that's kind of it. And it's not. It's scary. And if there's a way of getting out of it or avoiding it as a type 2, that's why what we're talking about is trying to give that information. Because it isn't about scaring people, but people do need to know it's more than you take a
because
tablet.
it's also linked to 15 types of cancers, different cancers as well. Being diabetic is also linked to 15 types of different cancers as well.
And I think, as we said about
very
COVID,
doom and gloom tonight, aren't we?
I
don't mean to be doom and gloom.
Can I just say that the cancer one was much more fun than this?
Wasn't it?
It's because you've invited me.
But it's true, and I think
come next time.
But I think cancer, you understand that immediately as being very serious, and it's sort of easier to talk about. And I think talking about something you think diabetes is diabetes, people perhaps aren't prepared for what we're talking about. And I'm not laughing because I'm laughing, but it is about balancing the seriousness of diabetes, but to try and give people there's something you can do about it. And I think the links that have come out about COVID and diabetes, people perhaps realizing your health and what can really put you more at risk when we have something that this doesn't happen every year, thankfully, but there's a group of people that are more at risk of something that's so risky already. And if you went back a couple of years and said, look, you can avoid being diabetic in 2020 because this is coming, there's a motivation and understanding things like foot care and how that can, progress, and problems with your eyesight. You do need to know that to think, oh, actually, if I could lose a bit of weight, that will help me get out of it or prevent it. And as we said, if there's things that you can't control, are there things that you can to try and mitigate it? Or if you are type 2, how do you best manage it to keep it under control and make sure that you minimize the risk of being diabetic? So as Trace was saying, it's accessing that information. Can I have grapes? How many grapes can I have? Can I have Haribo? Should I have Haribo? It's not going, I'll just have it, because there's more to be aware of and to take care of.
I remember actually I did Weight Watchers a few years ago, lost nearly 2 stone with it. It was really good. But when they said you can have 5 grapes, I thought fruit was good for you. But I didn't realize how much sugar is added to a little grape.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Evelyn was just saying her significant other has problems. He picks his toes till he bleeds because he can't feel them.
Maybe that's because the nerve endings are damaged. Maybe that's a sign.
Oh, good question, Nicola.
This is a very good question. I was going to mention this because, again, the same gentleman who's talking about you can have a donut every day, but eating a donut every day, he is the advisor to the NHS, and gestational came up about 3 or 4 weeks ago, very recently, in terms of the COVID vaccination. So should you have the vaccine if you've had gestational? and they within a weekend they turned around the kind of algorithm that was alerting who should have it. So as this person's just said, if you've had gestational, you should have an annual blood check.
Yeah.
But you can have the vaccine under the category of diabetes. So if you had gestational 5 years ago, there's still a risk that puts you into that category that you can have the vaccine. So we're in priority 6 in Rotherham at the moment, and that's over 50, clinically vulnerable, which includes diabetes.
Yeah.
It doesn't say type 1, type 2, type gestational. And gestational is in there. And I have talked to a couple of ladies as it's come up who haven't had a blood test every year, but they've had gestational. So there's something about picking that up to make sure that's being looked at. And as we said before, when we were talking about Be Cancer Safe, what's on your records? So is that being picked up that you've had gestational and that you are in that category to have the vaccination? So that's a brilliant. I feel like I've planned that. Somebody else, I'll send you a check. But that's a really.
I think why they test you every year is when you've had gestational. I do believe when you've had gestational diabetes, you are more at risk of developing diabetes after you've had your children.
But it puts you in, as I say, puts you in the category for clinically vulnerable. Getting your vaccine now, which is Group 6. So if anybody has had gestational, and hopefully has been for their blood test every year, and the doctors have got your tick in the box, but just double check it if you've not heard anything, because people are being invited now for Group 6. So I wanted to make sure I remembered to mention that. So your Group 6.
Yes, I've had mine.
I don't have to say what group we're in.
My first one.
I've had mine.
I was just going to go back to Stacey on that because I'm lactose intolerant, and a lot of lactose-free food is suitable for diabetics as well.
Yeah.
And the ice cream's gorgeous. I love the ice cream.
No, I've not tried it. I must admit, I've not tried.
The chocolate's nice as well. Michael gets me a lot of stuff from Asda, and it's quite nice.
Could I ask you then? Is it because I don't know the answer to this? Is it more expensive? Your food?
It's a
you
little
find it
bit
more expensive because it's obviously more of a.
It's a little
market.
Bit more expensive than Horus. Shut up.
It shouldn't be really, should it?
Regular food, but like everything, it's starting to come down. Yeah, the coconut-based ice creams are lovely. Really nice.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
A little bit more, and I also have the vegan magnums as well. They are gorgeous.
Oh, we'll try them.
Gorgeous.
I've not had any dessert tonight, so. Talking about food.
I know. Makes me hungry. Yeah, that was the question I was going to pick up, Michael.
Yeah.
Eating fats
more.
Experience. Oh, Evelyn's in the States, I should mention before I put a comment up. Eating fats more from meat.
They do. I mean, all I know is processed meat. They say don't. That's a food to avoid, or not so much, not completely avoid. Again, it's in moderation. But processed meat is not highly recommended.
No. I'd heard that as well, and I don't know where from. Probably from Brian, actually, when I was working for him, the diabetic guy.
Yeah.
He tended to eat a more. Not raw, but unprocessed foods. And so you would never buy like your sandwich meats and things because they've been through so many different processes. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I've cooked a couple of the recipes off the diabetes website, for cakes and things. And there's some gorgeous recipes on there. Loads of different recipes. So it's a good place to go to.
The thing I did, I'm sure all of the other slimming companies do this as well, but another friend of mine went to Weight Watchers, and she's celiac and vegetarian, and they now do diet-specific diets, eating plans. They don't call them diets. So I guess there'll be one for diabetes as well, on things like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lisa-
when we're out and about, we normally carry this piece. I know it sounds revolting. We carry this piece of fat around. It's only plastic. It's not real. And when people say, "Oh, I've only lost £2," is it £2 that one, Joe? Is it £1? Can't remember.
It's a pound.
It's a pound. We show them this. We get them to feel it, and they go, "Oh, that is good." I've actually,
Yeah.
I say, yeah. Don't ever be disappointed because you've just lost a pound this week. Or
It's
whatever.
a lot.
You feel this ball of fat, and you think, "Well, that's brilliant. I've done well."
Yeah. The lady that ran our Weight Watchers group, she used to come in every now and again with like, you don't get them now, but the old-fashioned phone books.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that weighs so
Yeah.
many pounds, and she would have a rucksack full of pebbles that weighed like a stone, and
Yeah.
you know, so you could feel just what you were carrying around with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Lisa Scott,
Inspires you.
just picking up on the gestational thing.
Mm.
Can you request testing for diabetes, or is it something they'll do when they feel it's necessary? I guess that's after. But you've just said they should be having regular
Yes.
blood tests anyway.
Yeah.
If you've been gestational, because as
You've been
Tracy said
gestational, yeah.
about
So-
undiagnosed diabetes, it can be 10 years before people are diagnosed. And once you get the symptoms, you're already diabetic. So pre-diabetes is about having the blood test and looking at the levels, or as we've gone through, you can do it through the risk checker as well to see where you might be. So I bet one of the questions, and I can't remember them all, but one will probably be about gestational. There's got to be something in there. Is if, as we just said, the risk is increased if you've had gestational. But as we'd always say, if you're not sure, I know it's not the easiest thing at the moment. Book a call with your doctors or the nurse.
Tell them that you've had
talk it through.
gestational.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that, Lisa. I'll be going back to your GP and just saying, look, I've had gestational diabetes. I know our son's still only little, so I would be telling them now.
Get into the system.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Know where you are and what you're on with.
And Nicola's point about she eats a gluten and dairy-free diet. When we were doing Weight Watchers, we went to my mum's and she's celiac. And I was fine at the time. I could eat what I wanted. And we pointed up because she made a carbonara with her pasta. And it was something like 4 times higher in terms of pointage because it was the gluten-free pasta than the normal pasta. But it's changed now. I mean, this was years ago, but it's changed now. So the gluten-free food's not as bad. So if you're on a gluten-free diet or a dairy-free diet,
there's more choice now.
Still able to do it and get some weight off. I need to do it. It just, I've put the lockdown stone on.
I'm same. I'm exactly the same. I did go on the website. I did measure my waist and everything, and it kind of like nudged me to do something a little bit.
Yeah.
Well,
again, you just do it bit by bit.
Yeah. We normally spend a lot of our time at the caravan, which is on the coast. So we walk on the beach with the dogs every day when we're down there. And of course, in Rotherham, you just don't feel like going out and walking around. Really.
Well, by the canal.
I think having been through winter,
done that actually a few times. It's lovely.
having been through winter, and it's getting a little bit, starting to feel a bit better. You feel more like perhaps just going for a walk. But having been through hibernation of winter, you don't want to go out in the wind and the rain. But it's been nice this week, and the clocks are changing, so it's it's getting lighter in the evenings.
It's Saturday.
Yeah, is it Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday.
It's Saturday night into Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah,
that sounds right. So it's sometimes it's not. None of this is easy, and sometimes it's harder at different times. And I think, talking about health, it's hard at the moment because it's it can be really difficult to think about it and do something with it.
That's why I said don't put too much pressure.
No,
I think sometimes we do put too much pressure on ourselves, don't we? And we think, right, I've got to walk that 5 miles, and I've got to lose a stone, and I've got to eat healthy, and and then before just do things step by step.
Yeah.
Tracy's just put a really nice point in, and the talk's just given her a kick up the butt to get rid of our weight. So, Tracy, you've got no excuse. You live right next to the beach in Redcar. Excuse.
Don't make us jealous.
I want to know more about this Asbo dog. Why?
I'm stuck with the Asbo bit.
Yeah.
You have to run faster.
Yeah. I'm having a blood test actually on Monday, so as it's a fasting one as well, I'm gonna chase that up as well and just make sure that they test it.
Yeah.
If you're fasting for a blood, it generally it can be that they're checking your sugar. But while they're taking some blood, then take a bit more.
And get it done, get it checked.
Get it done in one.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was there Tuesday for bloods, but I am notoriously bad. So it's the first time the nurses at this doctor's have taken my blood, and I warned them. 2 nurses and a doctor later.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I thought they were going to cut my arm off, just to get them.
My mum's like that. You can't get blood out of her.
No,
Tracy,
literally,
you walk miles
count
and
and
it's
drop.
not shifting. That's not good.
I never needles don't bother me, but I must admit when I went for the vaccine last week, I expected him to say, "Oh, you'll just feel a sharp scratch or something." Next thing you just straight in your arm. I shot off the chair.
You're being very brave.
No warning. Yeah.
I think it's like we talked about the COVID vaccine. If it's a bit of an experience to go and get it done, if you don't feel quite right for a few hours a day, but it's for a really good cause and a good reason, obviously. And when we talk about going through a blood test, check out your blood sugars, it is such a good reason because it's your health. And we're not always up for doing lots of different things that you think, it might be a bit uncomfortable or not sure. But I think having the COVID vaccination really demonstrates that we will go through it, even if we're a bit nervous or we're not so sure, all of that, because it's so necessary. And when we talk about diabetes, get your blood sugar checked. Do your best to get that sorted.
A question Helen put earlier was she has had hers checked and it keeps coming back normal, but she's still got the symptoms. And I must admit, mine keeps coming back. One keeps coming back high, then they do it again and it comes back normal.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that's normal, or is it just?
I think I would say when we talk about symptoms, any symptoms, when we're talking about our other work of cancer, if you have a symptom and you don't get an answer, it's still pursuing it. So why have you still got whatever that symptom is? If you've done a blood test and it's not diabetes or it's not something else, well, what is it? And we look at anything else that it might be a symptom of. And we would say the same. We always say the same when we talk about symptoms that might be cancer. Once you have that resolved, but you've still got something, well, what is it? It's still finding out. It's still following it up. It's still asking the questions.
Because when I was medically retired with my back, and when that started, he just kept saying to me, "You've got backache, but this has gone on for months and months and months." And when I asked I saw a trainee doctor when I went back, and of course, with her being a trainee, she was very thorough and checked off all this and said, "Oh, well, it says if you've had it for so long, I should send you for an MRI, so I'm going to send you for it." And I had a bulging disc which was sitting on both my sciatic nerves.
Wow.
And nearly 18 months I've been going back and back and back.
I think sometimes you've got to be persistent and keep on.
Just keep badgering at them. So Helen, if you're still having symptoms, I would say go and sit on the doorstep.
Yeah. And you know what I found useful? I think most practices have got them now, or I know they were putting them all in place, is the nurse practitioner. So most practices have got nurse practitioners, and as much as I love my doctor, I think he's great. But now I ask for the nurse practitioner because she seems to be really thorough. She does all blood tests, she does everything. They seem to have got more. I don't know if it's because it's a new, that I don't know why they seem to have more time to spend with you. But if you can't get hold of your doctor, actually practice if there's a nurse practitioner that you can talk to. Because they can prescribe and they can send you for tests as well.
Because we always say talk to your GP, because it's kind of a quicker way of saying it. But whoever you can get to talk to, be it the nurse, be it the advanced nurse practitioner, it doesn't have to be a doctor. And as Tracy said, different experiences. I went to see an AMP a couple of years ago. She was like a matron. She was brilliant. And I felt quite scared. If you're not right in 2 weeks, you come back. And I was like, well. But it was, you felt she'd really gone through everything. I'm not saying doctors don't, but what I'm saying is it's not less to go and see a nurse, or definitely a nurse practitioner, than if you can't get in to see a doctor. Because we know it's hard. But if
And
you're
some of
offered an
them are
appointment,
absolutely fabulous, aren't they? You know.
yeah.
Yeah. My practice has got nurse practitioners that look after all of the breathing, so COPD,
Yeah.
asthma, and everything.
Yeah.
And they are
Yeah.
brilliant. They've switched my inhalers around and all sorts just to try and get it sorted. They're really good, really good.
And some practices, I know Shakespeare Road in Rotherham have 2 diabetic nurses who have actually the health they're not nurses, they're health support workers who have gone and done extra studying about diabetes. So it's also worth an ask as well. So is there somebody specific at your practice that deals in diabetes? Because sometimes they have a cancer champion, sometimes they have a diabetes champion as well. So, you know, don't let them fob you off. Ask these questions.
Yeah. I think it's like, again, for any health condition.
I like that question.
Yeah.
That's just for everything.
Yeah. But just talk to somebody once you're not in the system, but if that nurse can't help you, she will then pass you to the GP.
Yeah.
So don't think, oh, I can't get to talk to the doctor, I don't want to see anybody else, and then you end up leaving it. So it's having that conversation, because they will put you to the next person, the right person, if you need to see someone else, if they can't look after you. So I think, like Tracy said, with the ANPs, the advanced nurse practitioners, you can do so much more than a nurse. You can still get that experience of I've been and I've had a good conversation and I've got what I wanted out of it. I've got something out of it. I haven't just been sent away again. But it is about persistence. I think with any health, you know yourself. If you've been told it's not X, but you're still having something. I think for us, because we have feet in lots of camps really, but some symptoms, so go into the loo a lot. We now say to people, if we're talking about potentially prostate problems, going to the loo a lot in the night, well, it could be diabetes.
Yeah.
But equally, diabetes, it could be prostate. It depends on who we're talking to. If it's a gentleman or somebody who is relevant in terms of prostates and they're of a certain age, we don't ever say, oh, it could be this, that, and the other. But we say, well, it could be other things. So go back to the doctor, take a list of your symptoms, how often, what's happening, when is it happening? Go with the information to present to somebody, either on the phone, either over Zoom, depending on how we're having those appointments, but have it there ready to talk about it, rather than, well, I think every now and again I'm going to the loo quite a lot. Well, when? Well, if you can go, well, it's this time, that time, and it happened on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. You know, go with the information to help them, but don't go, oh, okay, it's not that, I'll go home and carry on, because it could be all sorts. And it's a lot of different symptoms can be real just inconvenience to your life, as well as the fact it's a health problem that needs dealing with. It can really cause you a lot of problems, a lot of hindrance, and it's just difficult to manage. So let's just try and get it sorted. Ooh.
I know we just had a question of skipping meals. Is that a problem?
Yeah, that's
I can be a meal skipper.
I mean, I've been first blow my hands up. I skip meals sometimes.
So do I.
I just, it's sometimes life just gets in the way, doesn't it? And before you know, you've missed your dinner, and you're on to tea time and things. All I would say, and some days I don't think it'd harm you. You know, it's just life, isn't it? Where some days you just want to eat chocolate all day.
Regularly.
Right.
Skips.
If it's regular, I mean, I would always say try and eat little bits and often. Even if it's just snacking, even if it's having a bag of peanuts by the side of you, or something like that. Just try and eat small bits, but often.
That was the thing with Brian, actually, because the guy I worked for when I was a civil servant, the team we were with were terrible at booking meetings that ran from like 11 till 3.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't attend those meetings, or I'm going to have to come out, because
and have something to eat.
Being diabetic, he had to have something all of the time.
But it's not good for anybody, is it? Not to eat a lunch. I think I know it's not always easy where you work and how much control you've got over your time, but I think hopefully workplaces are better now at thinking about the staff, that you protect your lunch time, that people do eat, and not just because you've got a medical reason.
Yeah. We've
Yeah.
been told as well we have to take our lunch.
Yeah.
But it's lucky where I am, which is it's a set time. We know lessons finish at 12, quarter to 1, lessons start again. So we'd have that protected time in the day where we do get a lunch.
Yeah.
But it is easy to get caught up in, I'll just sort this out, I'll just sort that
Yeah,
out.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And I think
Lots of
talking
people
about
saying they're really glad they've caught this because
Oh,
it's
good.
prompted them.
Oh, good.
good, that's
Yeah.
good.
I've
And I
seen
think
2
when
or
you
3
talk
like that
about-
go up.
They're right. When you talk about Weight Watchers and Slimming World, and it does establish routine, and I think it may, and that I think goes a long way to helping. As I said about the prevention plan, it's about that structure. It is what you're eating, obviously, but it could be if you're eating better through the day, you're not kind of starving. You don't make the right choices for tea because you've eaten half of what you're going to have while you're making your tea because you're so hungry.
Yeah.
So I think any kind of plan, weight plan, whatever we want to call it, I think it helps you to put some regime in place that helps you to feel better. You don't have those, I'm really hungry, I'm too full, I feel a bit lethargic. I think it balances out what you eat through the day that helps you to eat better, and it does then help you to lose weight. You make better choices.
And I think the other thing it makes you do is it makes you plan your meals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
you plan your shopping, don't you?
We used to be terrible. Michael would call on the way home and just grab something in the supermarket every day. Where now, through lockdown, because he didn't want to go into the shops all the time, we planned a big shop.
Yeah.
And we stick to what we've got in.
Yeah.
Except for today, we went and got a bag of chips, but there we go. I won't mention that.
But it's about, again, when we talk about opportunities at the minute, if we are ideally doing a big shop or not going shopping every day, there is more opportunity to plan and see what's in the cupboard and go, right, this is what we're eating for the next few days, and this is how we're dealing with it, rather than, like you say, you're running home every day, nipping in the shop. Takeaway, I think takeaway, you've got to balance everything. If it's a takeaway once a week or you're having something on a weekend, but your kind of main days, it is about that structure. And I'm not brilliant at it. I'm not saying we never say we're the expert on this. I never say I'm an expert. There's a lot of good theory, but it's about having that support to be able to do it. And if you're on your own, that can be hard because you're cooking. It's harder to cook kind of bigger meals when you're on your own. You know, is it easier just to be snaffly and have toast and crisps?
I just live on cheese and onion crisp sandwiches. I seriously would.
Yeah.
That'd be my go-to every time.
There we go.
Can help.
I thought I was weird.
No. Lisa Scott asked, is the medication for diabetes, or is it a balanced food intake and correct and healthy foods? As a layman, I know there's insulin, which can either be tablets or injected, and there's different types of insulin, isn't there?
Yeah. So if you're type 1, it's insulin. You can be type 2, and we talk about tablets, but you can also need to inject insulin as a type 2, depending on the severity. So it is about insulin. So you have no choice with type 1. Type 2, it's whatever plan of medication you're on, but you can potentially reverse it. So
I remember my mum, she was type 2, and she had insulin, but she had 2 different types, and I think the night one was maybe a slow releasing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right.
Right, yeah.
I think you're medicated. I think with your doctor, you're very well monitored because your blood sugars can go up and down. I think that's why you have to do the regular finger prick test. But they do monitor you quite closely if you are diabetic as to the amounts of insulin that your body needs.
Yeah. And it can just vary. So, it's like, obviously more talking about type 1, but if you're slightly off the side, but if you have a medical detection dog, it's detecting your sugar levels, because it varies, and you've got to be able to manage that and keep it level. And managing type 2, in terms of making sure you're taking your medication, it's still something to be managed, but equally there's a potential to move away from being diabetic and not have to do that, not have to take the medication, not have the risk. And this is where the knowledge that there's something out there that you can access. There are courses you can do, you could potentially achieve remission, or just you can manage it better, because not everybody can achieve it. But if it's about managing better, eating a better diet,
Doing
and
exactly
eating,
what the last questions just said.
oh,
Yeah.
what was that?
Yeah.
Switch cooking styles. We
Yeah.
use an active fry and an air oven
Yeah.
Yeah,
now, which it's really helped.
Yeah, and cut down on
And
things
cut-
that's no added sugar.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
have
cut
no
down the
added sugar. Put
process.
them on, yeah.
yeah. I think it's a difficult condition. I think if you have any condition, if there's the opportunity to not have it, then it's knowing what you can do, and that's what we're about, really. It's that there is a potential to do something to change it, to change the risk of being type 2 diabetic and all that can come with being a type 2 diabetic. If you can get away from that, or if you can prevent becoming diabetic, so as we were saying about the prevention program, there's a lot of information out there that you can directly access now, rather than, as you said, you've got to go and see the doctor, you've got to go and have a blood test, you've got to go and see the nurse, and that feels difficult at the moment anyway, and has felt difficult for the last year. But as Tracy said, if there's people who are undiagnosed and don't know about the risk, just knowing the risks you might think, oh, I've a point's come out at this. I don't feel able to do anything about it at the minute, but it's in your head. You know about it. You're thinking about it, and the opportunity may come that you think, oh, actually, yeah, I'm going to do something. So it's under your control and how much you can manage and how you feel about doing something with it. But it's about knowing the risk, especially, as we've said, people from different groups, different ethnicity. It's a straightforward, there's an increased risk. And knowing about that might help.
So if you manage your food correctly, etc., and keep on top of it, it can go away, or is it for life and you just simply manage it?
Yeah, if you're diagnosed as a diabetic, you will always be a diabetic. You will always be known as a diabetic. Yeah. However, you can put into remission. Yeah. So there's no actual cure, but you're right in saying you manage your food correctly and keep on top of it. Do a little bit of exercise, even if it's just walking in the house and down the steps or something, and you manage it that way. But yeah, you will. It's once you're a diabetic, that's not. You will be classed as a diabetic on your medical forms and everything. Yeah.
Because one of the concerns that someone shared, which was really good of them to share, if they were type 2, but they said, if I'm no longer type 2 diabetes, do I still get my free prescriptions? Because if I'm no longer diabetic, then I lose things. I lose what is seen as quite a big financial benefit, which we're quite fortunate. People will share that kind of conversation with us because we're not the doctor, we're not the nurse, we're not the NHS who would go, well, why would you even think of that? This is about your health. But from a financial point of view, if you've got other health conditions, and I'm not saying being diabetic is a benefit, but there are other considerations that might make people think, well, if I'm no longer diabetic, and as Tracy said, remission, it isn't kind of confirmed yet that remission is you're no longer diabetic. So they call it you're in remission. So you're still classed as a diabetic, even though you're not on medication and it is in remission. So such as COVID at the moment, people who might have achieved remission a year ago, they will still be classed as diabetic for the COVID vaccine, for example. They'll still go for their eye checks that you have as a diabetic. So they're still checking you out as somebody with diabetes, even though you're not diabetic. So you're still looked after at the moment, if you like, in terms of is there anything that's still affecting? And also, has it kind of re-established? Because remission is quite a recent thing. It's a bit like pre-diabetes. I never knew about pre-diabetes. I thought
I'd not
it's
all
American. It's like
I didn't know anything about it.
No, it's an American thing to talk about pre-diabetes. It wasn't something I really heard of, but it's become more of. Sorry, my alarm's now going off.
Mine will be in a minute.
Vitamins. But that's but pre-diabetes is like I would say it's a relatively new thing in terms of knowing about it, because it's about that prevention. And the remission is a relatively new initiative,
Yeah.
because they've done studies and they've said, actually, yeah, if you can lose that weight, you can achieve remission. But it's still
Sorry, Joe, you can get shakes now, can't you? And at one point, they do like a 12-week course where if you can manage to have these shakes every day, these, a bit like Slim Fast, I suppose.
Yeah.
And at one point, there was a cost. I do believe in Cope this last year, it is now free on the NHS.
Yeah.
As well. So if you need to lose 2 stone or 2.5 stone, I think, you can be put forward for this thing, and it is free now. I don't think it's not very much publicised, probably because I think they haven't got enough funds to the amount of people that would access it, probably, like most things. But I mean, that's definitely something to look into as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can see where that chap's coming from, because I've got 12 items on my prescription.
Yeah.
I pay annually for it, but if you're getting that, is one of those tablets is diabetes, I can see where it's coming from. Bless you.
It's £10 a prescription now, is it? Is it £10?
Yeah.
£10 an item. Will that be just within Rotherham?
Yes.
So I think, as Tracy was saying about the shakes, I think I know when we started this 2 years ago now, the first conversation we had about the direct study, it was called, and it was about having shakes. And one of the conversations we had at that time was about, well, if people are on low income or they're using food banks, how can they? Is there Slim Fast in the food bank? Is there a way for people to do it? Yeah. So that was the other side of the conversation. But I know probably over the last few months, and I think that's where Tracy's picked it up as well. It was being brought out as kind of like a pilot, that it would be almost, I suppose, on prescription in some respects. But it's, I don't know how widespread it is and how you access that.
Maybe the GP, maybe speak to the GP. Yeah. It was called was it the direct study?
It was the direct study, and it was saying, I think it was like 3 months. Yeah. Like Slim Fast, the same sort of principle, to lose that weight, obviously quite quickly.
And they monitored you very closely.
Yeah. And they can take you off your medication as well when you're doing it. They manage, that's through the hospital who run those courses. So they will see how you're doing with your medication. Yeah, we've spoken, when we were out and about talking to people, we met a gent who was helping himself. He didn't know about the courses, but he was working really hard, and he'd lost nearly 2 stone, hadn't he, Tracy? 2.5. Yeah. But he said his doctor wouldn't take him off his medication, and he didn't know if it was diet related, or if it was actually something he couldn't do anything about because it was perhaps more linked in with family. So he was quite frustrated, but we said, well, if you do this, if you do the course, the nurses will look after your medication and they will reduce it or take you off medication. And he'd done so well on his own, because we all know we're talking about losing a pound, and it's like a mountain, but he'd managed to lose 1.5 stone on his own. So if there's a course that can help you to do that and give you that motivation of, we've reduced your medication, this is where you are.
Yeah, Tracy just said in her thing that she was offered it a couple of years ago, one of the questions, and it was £50 a week.
Wow. That's when it first started.
That's the one, but that's the one that they've said it's free now.
That's it, because we said that.
There's the allocation there, so I'm not 100%. The allocation's
£50
there.
a week's a lot of money, isn't it?
If you're a family, even on your own at £50, if you're a family, how do you feed your family? And that was, we had lots of conversations about the idea of doing that. I will say, when we do this, I got some shakes from Home Bargains, and talking about missing meals, and when we have been out and about, it's very difficult to make sure you have some lunch. So I had a shake for my lunch, so it really helped me. And I did lose a little bit of weight, so I thought, well, I'll have a go at this, see how it is. But it helped me to make sure I didn't skip meals. But it was 50p, I think, from Home Bargains as opposed to a Slim Fast £2. But there is a financial aspect sometimes, and as Trace said, and I think that's why it's out there somewhere in some description. We'll try and find out the links for it as well if we can.
But Tracy's just come up with a good point as well. Her doctor gives if her GP refers her to the gym, she gets a membership cheaper. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's good. And also she picked up about the Slimming World, because we've come across this before, haven't we, Joe? Where you can access Slimming World free.
Yeah.
So many weeks. Is it 20 weeks or something? Or
I can't remember.
yeah,
But
through
I
your
will-
GP.
I will
I think
say
it's about 20 weeks or 24 weeks. So it's
Yeah.
worth asking your GP as well.
Mm.
Because that's, I mean, Slimming World's, what is it, about £6 a week, something like that?
Yeah.
£5-6 a week.
Yeah.
And I think you can access through it. Oh, it's through one of the Healthier You.
Get healthy.
Get Healthy.
Get
That's it.
healthy.
Get
Yeah.
Healthy. If you go through Get Healthy Rotherham, you can access it through that. And I think you can get something like, I don't quote me on this, maybe so many weeks free. But it was quite a lot of weeks. So
Yeah.
that's worth knowing as well.
Yeah,
It's also, you know, save your
we
money.
lost quite a lot of weight when we went to, well, I was doing Weight Watchers, but you know, you can lose quite a lot of weight if you stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's where the prevention program, you're getting that for free. And I'm not saying we always talk about financials, but we do, because we say it's a free course. If you were to go to Weight Watchers, Slimming World, or any other kind of diet club, or however we want to call it, the NDPP course, the prevention program, is free. You get that one-to-one as well as a group, because you are kind of a virtual group at the moment, but they will support you through it. I think they start off every week. You have a one-to-one, and you have it weekly, and then it goes monthly. But it supports you all the way through. So
for a year.
So we say that's kind of, it's free. So if you have done the know your risk and it brings you out of that score, there's the opportunity to join something that would maybe usually cost you money, with all of the support that comes from talking about the diabetes side of things. So it's a good initiative. And I think, as I said, COVID, it makes it easier to access, because you can go yourself. You do you know your risk? You can sign up to it, and you can do it from home, which is, you know, we're not saying it's better if it's easier, isn't it? Everything's better if it's easier.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Wow, where's that hour and 10 minutes gone?
I thought we'd run out after 10 minutes, so we've done well.
Wow. And there's been lots of really interesting questions and discussion going on in the chat as well. It was really good.
Could I just bring up one more thing that I was reading about, obviously about tonight, that there's a professor, and there's been a recent report for transgender men, and they think now that because of the hormones that they are more at risk of getting type 2 diabetes. There's a professor at the moment doing a big study that's just come out. I've got his name, Professor Samiak Shahid, and he's saying that more than likely now that transgender men are at greater risk of type 2 diabetes. There's more research needed, but the findings are there because of and they've got to be more monitored more closely. Through any hormone therapy.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I found that quite interesting. But yeah, I've got all the details of his study. So if you pass anything on to you, I will do. It's an interesting read. It's quite in depth, so I couldn't go through it all with you tonight. But it's definitely, I'll send it on to you because it's really informative.
Nick, Nick Cox has just said he's gutted he missed it. He thought it was a 7 o'clock start. He's type 2 diabetes and needs some support, but he's only caught the last few minutes. It will be on our website, our Facebook page straight after, so you can watch it back. But we can put you in touch with Joe and Tracy separately.
Yeah, no problem.
I know he lives in Barnsley, but...
Oh, it's all right.
Oh,
we talk to people in Barnsley. It's all right. We do have as well our Facebook, our Facebook page and our Twitter account, which is at the Diabetes Aware. So any information, like Tracy just mentioned, when we find information and find news, interesting articles, really good links, we will always share them on our page. We update it 2 or 3 times a day. So if people want to have a look at that as well,
Or
There's
ask us
lots
any
of resource.
questions. Send us a
And ask us any
question.
question. Yeah, just drop us a message or post something up, and
Brilliant.
we'll find out if we can for you.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on something Evelyn's put in about a medical medium with spirit. I'm like I said at the beginning, I'm a spiritual medium, and that's a lot of people are watching from my feed as well as from the Rainbow Project.
Yeah.
We would never ever say stop conventional medical therapy. If you're doing anything with a spiritual aspect,
Yeah.
spiritual healing, see a GP. If you've got an issue, don't just rely on spiritual healing or anything like that. Always check with a medical professional as well. I did have, and you're going to cringe at this, when Jean was diagnosed with breast cancer, a medium told her all she needed was CBD oil and spiritual healing and she would be fine. And I was like, oh my God, no, definitely not. No, always go down the medical professional route as well as spiritual
it's good advice. Really good
healing.
advice.
It will help, but
and I think there's that holistic approach, isn't there? There's things that can help you that aren't necessarily a tablet or a treatment, but you need those in place. And if other things help you get through something or support you, make you feel better, then there you go. Complementary treatment. Absolutely.
Yeah. Bang on, Michael. Bang on.
Yeah.
Well,
the study to talk about transgender women. The study that I'll send through was on transgender men and transgender women, but I think it was transgender men that came out more so with the risk.
Right. Brilliant. Well, I'll have a read of that anyway. Oh,
Yeah,
your address is classed as
send it
Rotherham
through.
anyway. Nick's address is classed as Rotherham, so he's good to
That's
go.
all right.
I'll let you in then.
But absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's
And
okay.
thank you, Tracy. That's been really, really interesting. And I'm sure on behalf of everybody who's watched and will watch in the future, thank you so much.
No,
Thank
you're
you
more
for
than
the
welcome.
invite. Thank you.
As I always say, you know where we are, and if we may well be talking about other
Yes,
other
definitely.
subjects. So I'll keep you updated, and we're more than I say
vaccine.
I'm sure Tracy will come back again. We're more than happy
I
to.
hope so. I hope we haven't scared you off.
I come back and talk about something good.
Yeah, we'll try and do something a little bit more. I don't know. We'll just come and have a chat.
Yeah.
There's that as well.
That'll do.
It's all right. We'll come and do that.
Yeah.
We're doing a random chat on Tuesday night, aren't we, Nick?
Yeah, sort of, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about support and family within the LGBT
parenting.
area and parenting and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But we may well have some more general conversations and more general information that we can share. So
you can't believe the time's gone so fast.
Yeah,
it has. I nearly died.
Yeah.
On my screen, it's got the timer up in the corner, and we're now in 15 minutes in, and it's like,
Oh yeah,
what? How's that happened?
Oh, you've made us feel really welcome. So
thank
thank you.
you. And thank you for letting me back.
No problem.
No problem. Anyway, I will say good night.
Yes, take care.
Yes,
see you all
take care.
soon.
Yeah,
Bye,
bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye.